alone out here. Somebody help me! Whatever did this could still be here.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Screenstars. I'm here today to bring you my review for the 2022 science fiction fantasy film Galaxy Games, a film that is directed by Ben Carland and it stars Jake Brown, Sky King and Jake White. Now the film is set in the future. There is an event or some galactic games called the Sol Invictus Games, I think they're called, and a group of teenagers, they seem to be, you basically sent somewhere out in the galaxy and you've got to kind of compete in these galaxy games and come back. It doesn't exactly make it particularly clear how you win. It certainly didn't to me anyway. But they send like a load of different people, a load of different teams to these planets. So you've got people that are good at, I don't know, using maps, and other people at scouting. Or you've got all these people with different skills, and the idea is I think you scout these planets, try and get out of there alive, and come back with some kind of evidence that you've won the games. And this group of young men arrive on this planet. It's like this desert planet. A lot of them are kind of lost en route through this transporter thing that they sent there on. So they kind of all got to kind of team up from like these different teams. They've all got to kind of band together in order to get back home alive. However, there is something else on this planet that is hunting them. And they've got to work together to stay alive. Right, what are my thoughts on Galaxy Games? Well, this one's a little bit confused. I was confused because when I was researching this one, I looked at the director, Ben Carland. Last year in 2021, I think it was, there was another film that he did called Sol Invictus Games. With a lot of the same cast. So I don't know if this is the same film that's been repackaged and put out again, or if this is a remake of that film. I have no idea really. Either way, this is the film that we're looking at today, Galaxy Games. And it's probably not going to be much of a surprise to you guys when I say this isn't really that good at all. Now, in regards to production values, as you guys know, if you follow my content, follow the channel, you know that I do a lot of low-budget reviews for the channel. I get some lots of screeners, I get all that kind of stuff, and I review a lot of low-budget type films. So, generally speaking, you do have to check your expectations at the door with many of them films. Now, this isn't what I would describe as a no-budget film, but it's very low budget. It's all set in like this desert environment, so it's not exactly interesting to look at. That's the first thing I want to say. But they've made some attempt to put some of the budget into some of the effects that you see. And what I mean by that is some of the equipment that they use looks a bit futuristic, I suppose. And these creatures that they come up against on this planet, I've seen worse, I suppose, in regards to effects for a low-budget film. They don't do a terrible job at portraying the threat of these creatures in the film. The rest of it, really, I can take it or leave it, you know what I mean? They all kind of walking around in these futuristic shell suits that don't look futuristic at all. And despite what I've said about the effects and things like that, it doesn't feel like a futuristic film at all. It just basically looks like they've taken these kids to the beach and filmed for 4 or 5 days to put this film together. The performances here are a little bit all over the place. Some performances are okay, strong enough for a film of this type of budget, and some of them are a little bit less convincing. There's some potential here on some of the actors on display, and others not so much, and I'm not going to point out who I think is which. But what I'm trying to say is, for a low-budget film, I've certainly seen worse films in regards to production values and budget on the screen. It doesn't do a bad job. It reminded me, this film, of a cross between The Hunger Games, Pitch Black, the Vin Diesel film, and Starship Troopers. And the reason why I say that is obviously like they're being sent to this place to compete in these games to see who can come back and alive and win the event, that sort of thing. That's why it reminded me of Hunger Games, even though I've not seen all of them films. Pitch Black was because these creatures only really attack at night and they're sensitive to light. So these, and they looked a little bit like the creatures from Pitch Black, but they also look like the creatures a little bit from Starship Troopers, some of them. So that's why I kind of think it's a cross between all three. But imagine a cross between all three of those films, but with 1% of the budget. You know what I mean? It's an ambitious film that fails to deliver. Really, for me, it's just there's long periods in this film where you've just got these guys or teenagers arguing amongst themselves constantly. And it comes a point in a film where you don't want to see that anymore. It's dull. You've seen that. Okay, I get it. You're in a difficult position. You're trying to figure out what to do. And it's just like they're all kind of working against each other, always arguing all the time. And it just, that's the film, really, with an occasional beastie thrown in to try and generate a little bit of excitement. He fails to deliver on any level, really, of excitement for me. I didn't really feel any sense of dread about these creatures. I didn't really care about any of the characters because none of them were fleshed out or well written, even though the performances, some of them were of a decent standard. So you ended up just not caring about any of the characters. And it's a pretty dull affair to watch it as well, if I'm being honest. And there's a decent idea and a decent concept here that probably, if you could throw, a couple more million at it, you'd have probably made an half-decent picture. As it stands, it has to be a 3 out of 10 for me, because I just didn't enjoy my time watching it. It's just too dull from my perspective. So that's my review for Galaxy Games. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much for watching, and of course, I'll be back with more reviews and content on the channel very, very soon.